Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance copywriter and copywriting mentor, and I've got 25 ideas for you today of how to come up with ideas for what to write about. So if you are producing a lot of information for your clients, sometimes you can get to a point where you're like, what am I going to actually write about? But one thing I want to push back on, because if this hasn't happened for you yet, or you're thinking about becoming a copywriter, is that usually when you have a niche and you dig into your audience more and you're writing for clients like consistently, what actually ends up happening is you start realizing that there is an infinite number of things to write about. But I want to give you a few things to kind of keep in mind so that you can never, ever, ever, ever run out of ideas again. So first things first, my favorite thing is to just type a few keywords into Google and then to scroll to the bottom and see what Google suggests. So seeing what Google suggests is really great for coming up for SEO keywords. It's also great to find out what are people looking for? What are people searching for? Number 2 is to use some sort of topic suggesting software like Ubersuggest or Answer the Public. Those are 2 really great tools for coming up with new ideas. Number 3 is to check out forums like Reddit, Yahoo Answers, Quora, and see what people are talking about, because oftentimes people actually go to these forum sites when they cannot find the answers they're looking for, which can be a really great opportunity for you. Number 4 are looking in groups on social media platforms. My favorite are Facebook groups. Facebook groups related to your niche can be a wealth of information. They can also help you with finding the right jargon, making sure you're saying things exactly how your audience would be saying them. And the search function allows you to kind of pick through the group and see new topics and new ideas while kind of allowing you to be a fly on the wall. Number 5 is to review anything that you've written before and see if you had subtopics or other, ideas or concepts that can be teased out and fleshed out in a more comprehensive way. Number 6 would be to just run a social media poll. You can ask people what they want to hear about more from your client or from you. Number 7 is the Keywords Everywhere plugin. This is a really great tool that you can use in Google Chrome that as you're searching, as you're using Google, it will give you suggestions, which can be really helpful for future ideas. Number 8 is to check YouTube. People often forget to search YouTube like they do Google, and that is a really important way to use a different search engine that will give you slightly different results and a ton of wonderful ideas. Keep in mind, people who are often using Google may not be using YouTube, and people who are using YouTube may not be using Google as much. People tend to have a little bit of a preference, and so that's why it can give you a ton of wonderful ideas that's slightly different. Number 9 is to look at FAQs. FAQs, even on your competitor's website, can give you a ton of ideas. Each FAQ can turn into something: a Facebook post, a blog, a page on a website. It could be an objection that could turn into a case study. FAQs are a really great source of ideas to come up with ways to approach things differently in your copy. Number 10 is one of my favorites. Make sure you take the time to review what is the most popular content either on your social media, your client's social media, and see what is really resonating with your audience most. And I love to remind people that you think that you know, but oftentimes it's really hard to predict what's actually going to hit home with the people who want to hear from you. Number 11 is to ask an outsider. Check in with somebody who's not in your audience. See what they think. It could be a family member or a friend. It could be anyone really. But sometimes having that outside perspective will give you new ideas. Number 12 is Google Keyword Planner. That is always a great tool to turn back to for new ideas. Number 13 is to survey your audience. I love surveying people. So you can use things like Typeform or SurveyMonkey. Emailing a list is a really great way to survey people, but one thing you want to be sure that you do is you always have to incentivize them to actually take the survey, or else you're probably not going to get a ton of answers, or you're only going to get answers from people who have really strong opinions about something, which are not always the best people to be asking, because sometimes they've had a bad experience or they're really upset, and while you want to hear from them, they tend to be disproportionately loud. So keep that in mind. But definitely survey your audience. Another great place to look are the reviews of similar products or services. So go check out reviews. Look at the 1-star reviews, look at the 5-star reviews, and see what people are talking about. What are their favorite things? What are the things that kind of irk them? Because all of that is, those are such great ideas. It's gold. It's gold for new ideas of how to approach content. Another one of my favorite is to create a list of how-tos. How to connect with your audience, how to create a customer avatar. Those would be relevant, keywords or ideas for me. But take the time to ask yourself, what are some important how-tos for my audience, and how can I start answering those questions? Number 16 are handling objections. I've kind of already touched on this, but it's important to call it out again because handling objections is always a good idea as a copywriter, but it's also a great place to kind of flesh out something. So for example, if you have a product or service where people think I'm too old to use XYZ, find a customer who was maybe a little bit older and really dig in deep. Handle that objection, connect with that person, tell their story, create a case study. And if you continue to handle objections, you're going to always have a slightly different way to approach similar topics. Number 17 is to use the Facebook and Instagram algorithm to your advantage. Start searching for profiles and products and services that are relevant to your niche and watch the ads come pouring in. And that is one of my favorite tools to kind of passively collect information and ideas for future projects because you can actually make that obnoxious algorithm work for you. The next one is to create a compilation of statistics or quotes. And these can turn into, individual ads or individual posts. This is a really great way to kind of sit down and batch your work and to make it turn into many, many, many pieces. Number 19 is to tell the story of a customer. Again, this could be a case study, but it also could just be a customer spotlight where you really dig into their story, and it can be a valuable tool for people to connect with people who are enjoying your products or services. Number 20 is to do a day in the life of. This is something that people are loving right now, so you can do that for your client. Number 21 is to discuss an industry myth. That is always a really interesting take on something that's kind of been hashed out time and time again. Number 22 is to clarify something that is misunderstood in your industry. We all have things like that, and sometimes it's worthwhile to just take a moment and write a piece of really beautiful content directly at this misunderstood myth or situation in your industry. Number 23 is to discuss something that's slightly off topic, but maybe adjacent to what it is your client has as a product or service. And this could be something like a local guide. Maybe if you have a brick and mortar location or you are a location-based business, you could actually create a local guide that is somewhat relevant, and it's a great way to get in front of new audiences. Number 24 is to do a before and after with a product or service. This is another great angle that people love. We love before and afters. It's even better if there's pictures associated with it because we just love the satisfaction of seeing that before and that after. We just love transformation. So that's always a great way to come up with new ideas. And number 25 is to update old content. This is something that can always be done. And it's funny because you might go back through a client's, website and look at content that was written 3 years ago and have so many new insights that you can do a much better job today. So those are my 25 favorite ways to come up with ideas of things to write about or new angles, new approaches for literally any type of copy or content. So I hope that helped. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if it did. This is how I know you want to see more stuff like this. And of course, please always feel free to leave me a comment. I get lots of ideas from the comments, so I learn a lot from you, just as you learn from me. And of course, please don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.